This is Dateline News and Conversation. Israel is using AI to kill Palestinians. My guest tonight, Maria Nikolakaki, the professor from Greece. Maria, welcome to the show.
I am very honored and I'm very happy to be with you again and to continue our discussions about geopolitics and other issues. Thank you so much.
Well, we're going to do this often, Maria. Now that you're retired, you have been prolific in writing articles in Greek, and I've had to use the Google Translate to figure out what you're saying, but your articles have been amazing, and I want to be able to share those with the English-speaking world with you. And tonight, I want to talk about a recent article you wrote, and it's about Israel using AI to kill Palestinians. Tell me what you know about this, Maria.
Well, it is about a program that is called Levanda, and what it does is that it got all the images of those who were connected to Hamas. Now, if you think about Hamas, it was the government of Palestine, of Gaza. So anyone who had been seen in connection was given a rate from 1 to 100. And according to the rate that one got, the Levanda was ordered to use either a stupid bomb if it was a low rate, or a more target bomb, which would be for the high ranks. So what they did was that they dropped these AI generated bombs during the night where the whole family was. So it was just to find, in my eyes, this is mass slaughter. They want to have justification, and I think that's why they brought it up, to have a justification that it wasn't us that was doing it, it was AI, but I see it as a case for the Nuremberg trials, because this is slaughter without any justification. And AI Levanda, to show that these people were Hamas, does not pass as an excuse for that.
So let me ask you this. Israel has been killing Palestinians now since last October. It's a massacre. It's over, I think, 30,000 now dead, and 70% of those are women and children. Now they're using this artificial intelligence to create a kill list. And I mean, this is just kind of blowing my mind. Up until now, apparently, until this was revealed about AI, they've just been killing indiscriminately. There's stories that these Israeli snipers are shooting children for sport. But what are the implications now? I mean, you said Nuremberg, but what are the implications for war when one side can use artificial intelligence to kill? I'm not going to call the Palestinians enemy. They're not. They're innocent civilians. What are the implications?
Palestinians are the occupied. Israelis are the occupiers. I think we need to make a distinction between these two. And anyone who thinks that it could be an occupier without any resistance does not even understand what occupation is. Now, what they are doing is dehumanization, the process of exterminating Palestinians. And mind you, as Anthony Lowenstein wrote in his book, The Palestinian Laboratory, what Israel is doing, has been doing all these years, is that they are using Palestinians of guinea pigs in order to test anti-human, brutal force against people, and then they export these models to other countries. I am saying again and again, we must see this war not only against Palestinians, but if it is successful, then we will all be Palestinians, and all this AI technology will be sold abroad to our governments to detect us. Either we are vaccinated or we are talking badly against the government. It's like this technology was made to be exported. We must not be naive about the intentions of this technology.
Okay, well, you mentioned something very important, and I don't think we can mention it enough. The Israelis have occupied illegally Palestinian land. I think that's a very important point, and I don't hear it mentioned enough. All we hear well, I'm not in the West, but all we hear from the West is Israel has a right to defend itself against unarmed, helpless people. And the governments of the West, being led by and forced by the United States of America, are standing silent. They're giving either direct or implicit permission for Israel to do this, including using AI, which is horrendous in itself. I understand what you're saying about the danger of this being exported, being sold to whoever wants to buy it. Now, Maria, as horrendous as this is, and I just mentioned how silent the United States is and the rest of the Western world, but the rest of the world has risen up in massive numbers, including in the United States. People have got into the streets. People around Europe are in the streets. People in the Southern Hemisphere are rising up and protesting against this. Maria, where the heck is the Muslim world in support of their brothers and sisters in Palestine?
I think we must see that first of all, we have the axis of resistance, where Syria, Lebanon, Iran, Iraq, Yemen are fully supporting the Palestinians in any possible way. We saw how Iran bombed the embassy, the Iranian embassy in Syria, and killed 7 prominent figures of Iran. Now, what we must see is that the axis of resistance is trying not to permit USA to be entered into the scene by what Netanyahu has been doing. So what he's been doing is that he's trying to drag USA in. So he dropped that bomb so that Iran would retaliate, and then USA would come to the rescue, because Israel is not winning on any of its purposes for this war. The IDF is being defeated by Hamas, and Hezbollah and Yemen and Syria and Iraq are also doing their bit to as Narwan in the Cradle said, how Iranians boil the frog. So what they want is to slowly be able to weaken Israel. And they're doing a pretty good job. By now, more than half of its economy is being destroyed. And there is, they are in panic, they are frustrated, and they are in anger. And we see, unfortunately, that about 90% of Israelis want to go further with a genocide, which it means that they have no compassion, or they have no ability to understand that you cannot have your boot on someone's neck for all their life and then expect them not to react and resist at some point. So what I'm saying at this point is that the Israel project as occupation by the Zionists that was decided in 1948, even before 1917 by the Balfour Declaration, is failed. That end of story. It can't go much longer. What I want to emphasize is that the rest of the Arab countries have issues that because they have been appointed to govern the region through the 1916 Picot Treaty, which actually what it did was to compartmentalize the Middle East and then give it over to a European occupier. So these countries that were arbitrarily made and governed by proxies of USA and Israel have lost their the trust of the people through this Palestine case. And we see in the streets of Jordan, in the streets of Turkey, in the streets of Saudi Arabia, people are protesting in support of Palestine. Now, this analyst from Lebanon, Latif Matouf, I think is his name, he said that when this war is over, he believes that the people will overthrow the governments that during this crisis were not able to support the Palestinians during their genocide, and it will be a definitive factor that will reshape the West Asia, not Middle East. West Asia is the proper name in the following years to come. So this attack, this genocide, has far more many implications than what we can see by first observation.
Okay, let me ask you this. Do you think Israel can survive in the short term and the long term? You mentioned that half their economy has been disrupted and failing. The port has laid off half the workforce. The Houthis have done an incredible job of blocking any ships going to or from Israel. They've done their part, and they continue to attack even American ships that are there. But do you think that Israel can survive given the fact that their economy is in shambles and free fall, that several million Israelis have fled. They've evacuated tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people from those settlements, illegal settlements. These people are not likely to return given the way this conflict is going. But do you think Israel can survive?
I don't think so, to be honest. First of all, the project Israel was made under the umbrella excuse that Jews wanted a country of their own, so they wouldn't be prosecuted and be feeling safe. But it seems that the least safe place to be right now is Israel. Now, Israelis are extremely racists, so they would never allow the two-state solution to be fulfilled. If it is fulfilled, which seems it very possible, because China, Russia, and other countries, everyone now is talking about a two-state solution, which honestly, it's very generous for Israel, because the original inhabitants of Palestine are being restricted to owning only 22% of Palestine. But Israelis don't want that. They want it all. And not only Palestine, but they want from the river to the sea, the Yinon Plan, which includes also parts of Egypt, parts of Saudi Arabia, parts of Syria, parts of Iran, parts of Iraq. So they have bigger plans after they solidify Palestine. Now, if the international community is able to install a two-state solution after this genocide, then Israelis will leave Palestine in drones. They will not live side by side with Palestinians. And actually, there are reports where they are buying North Cyprus, and they are buying territories in the Greek Cyprus, and actually they have been buying territories here in Thessaloniki and Macedonia. And so some after the war might go back to Ukraine. So for me, I don't see that in 10, 15 years' time, such a state of Israel will exist. Now, there is also one other thing that is coming, which will make it even more difficult for Jews to be in this area, because what they are planning is to build their third temple in the place of Al-Aqsa Mosque. And that is something which Hamas said from the first day. And actually that is why the operation was called Al-Aqsa Flood. They want to bring down Al-Aqsa Mosque, which will outrage 2 billion Muslims around the world. This will be the definitive act to unite Muslims. And they already have red heifers brought in from Texas, which they couldn't find for decades, but now they found them. They have to be specific, with specific characteristics. They should not have not one white hair. They should be under 3 years old. And not only have they found the red heifers, they also have had the Temple Institute which is the temple which is responsible for the building of the third temple, has already defined who will be the one who is sacred enough to burn the red heifer. So it's a young lad, around 15 years old, and he has not been to hospital or to cemetery, which means he cannot have any knowledge of death. He has to be born at home, no connection to hospital, no connection to cemetery. All these biblical apocalyptic scenarios, which are used as pretense from the Zionists, are going to escalate the following days, years, and we might see things that go beyond our imagination. Now, they said that the red heifer was going to be burned on the 8th of April. Now, I read somewhere that they got approval for the 22nd of April. I don't know what they're up to. I know the facts. The facts is they brought in red heifers from Texas. They found the boy, the lad, the pure lad who will burn it, and that will be a movement that will bring together the Muslims, and the only ones to support this thing are the Jews and the Christian Zionists. Nobody else is going to support bringing down the third most sacred temple of the Muslims after Mecca and Medina, so that Jews have their own temple.
Yeah, it's crazy. I know they want to sacrifice one of those red heifers from Texas, and then that will begin the, I guess, unfolding of the prophecy that the new temple, the third temple, will be rebuilt after the Al-Aqsa temple is destroyed. Now, that's ominous enough, and I think it would unite the entire Arab world. I would hope militarily, and not just more pious platitudes. But there's another important thing we haven't talked about yet, and that's the fact that Israel bombed an Iranian embassy and killed some high-ranking people. And Iran and the Ayatollah has promised revenge, retaliation. So far, we haven't seen anything, at least directly. What do you think might happen, Maria, in terms of retaliation?
Well, I think that Iran will collaborate with Putin on this, because he called them and said that Iran is at a good state right now. If you give them the excuse to bombard and destroy your economy, which you are it took decades of work to build, then you are doing them a favor. So they are not very quick. They will retaliate, that's for sure. But the point is how and where and when. So I heard a discussion between Pepe Escobar and Kevork Almacien, who said that probably it could be the Golan Heights, which is Syrian occupied territory, where the Zionists have made this corporation called Genie Energy, and Genie Energy has Rothschild, it has Volkovich, it has many other names there, and it is stealing the Syrian oil since 1967. United Nations has not declared that this occupation is legal. It is illegal. It is Syrian territory. So it could be something like that would be devastating, but at the same time, not a good enough excuse for the Americans to enter the war. This is the balance that Iran needs to be taken right now.
Let me ask you this seriously. Do you really think that the United States could be drawn into this war? I don't see it. I just don't see the United States, except using some airplanes off of their what do you call it? Aircraft carriers off the coast. But do you really think that America would get involved directly in this thing?
Yes. Brian Berletic brought to the surface this document from Bloomsburg from 2009. Its title is Which Path to Persia? You can look it up, it's on the internet. And there, the scenario that was suggested was that USA could look reluctant to enter the war, but this is like the plan, and we must see why USA would want a war. I mean, we know why Israel wants a war, because it's losing the war in Gaza. It's losing. Netanyahu is desperate. If he calls for peace, he'll be behind bars for what he was charged before. So there's no way. Sorry. There's no way that Israel will stop this if it's not stopped. But we must see that USA is being challenged for the first time by the multipolarity of China, Russia, Iran, and the BRICS. So this is a condition where if it doesn't move forward against fighting the multipolarity, it will be defeated by the sheer measures of their economy. I mean, China has most of the industrial capacity of the world. Its R&D is getting very high results. It is leading the AI race, and it is actually the most strong country in the world as by the means of commodity production. Russia is the second, one of the top three countries of the world. Its military exceptionalism is beyond reach. It has at least 10 years of technology before NATO and the West. And it has so many resources the six times as big as EU, the biggest country on the planet, with many resources. It has oil, it has gold, it has everything. So these two in connection, if you put also military-wise the ability of the technology of Russia and the military capacity of China, I mean, we are talking here about 1 million people in the West, and China can bring 50 million people like that. So the wise thing would be if the West accepted that it is better for everyone to have a peace agreement, to to be able to share the prosperity, the common prosperity that the BRICS are about. Instead, they want to cling on to a lost unipolarity, and they want to show their teeth like they're a laughing stock, right? So now Germany, France and Germany is going to the borders of Ukraine, and if they get about 50,000 troops, it would be a miracle. Do you know how many? I mean, Ukraine started with 700 troops. It has around 300 or less right now. And all the best soldiers were eliminated. So now they are recruiting boys, old men, and women. How can, whatever the West does, it cannot change the result. It cannot change. And they're so losers, they think in imperialist colonial terms that they were strong once upon a time, and they cannot accept that they lost. I saw in Europe, Guy Falkenstein, anyway, a Dutch politician, who said they are asking for patriots and we're not sending them. As many patriots as they send, as much armory as they send, they cannot beat neither the existing arms of Russia nor the capacity they have of production. It's really foolish to continue to slaughter Ukrainian people who are sent to fight this biggest military force on the planet.
Yeah. Well, I'll play the devil's advocate here about whether the United States would enter that war. The United States has spread very thin. They've got this really direct war against Russia and Ukraine. I don't call it a proxy. It's obvious. America's stated foreign policy is to defeat Russia, take down Russia, get rid of Putin, steal its resources. Now, the United States is heavily invested in the Middle East, in Israel. Then we shift over further east, and the United States is up to its eyeballs in the East China Sea and the Philippines. Not only that, the United States is involved in, I think, some other 20 or 30 other milder conflicts around the world. They've got 800 military bases in some 90 countries. That's not for defense. Those are occupation forces. But the United States is so overextended financially that it's on the verge of collapse. The $34 trillion debt, they're having a hard time even to meet the interest payment of $1 trillion a year. The economy in the United States is in free fall. People go to the gas station, they can't afford to fill a tank. They go to the grocery stores, they can't afford to feed their families. They're cutting back on food. Their utility bills are out of sight. And politically, the United States is so deeply divided between blue and red, Democrat, Republican, Joseph Biden, or Donald Trump. The United States Congress is in chaos and paralyzed. And the people, I forgot to mention the problem with immigration, millions of people coming through the border that the United States really can't stop. And what they're afraid of now, the director of the FBI is afraid of Russia going to use terrorists to engage in multiple terrorist attacks on multiple sites in the United States. So when I look at the United States and what it's been unable to do in Ukraine, in the East China Sea, all they're doing is threatening. China, if it wanted to, could eliminate that entire fleet or fleets that are in the East China Sea. It would only take a matter of a few days at most. I just don't see the United States being able to sustain this effort to completely control the planet. Now, we're going to get into what you have called World War III has already begun, and it's against multipolarity. We'll do that in a subsequent show. But I want to ask you one more thing, Maria, we haven't talked about. Netanyahu has set a date for the attack on Rafah, where I think some 2 million people are holed up in kind of like a concentration camp. What do you think will happen if Israel does attack Rafah? Completely defenseless. They're refugees. They're running from their homes to escape being killed. Do you think that might bring in militarily some more of the Muslim countries? And do you think that will force Iran's hand to react?
Well, I cannot predict accurately, but what I think is that this is one movement too far, and I think first of all, Western countries will try to stop that. And let's not forget that IDF is not a proper military. IDF has been trained to bully and to act arrogantly against unarmed Palestinians. They have not any experience in battles. So even if they invade, it's not. It doesn't mean that that these people would be. That Palestinians would be slaughtered at the extent that Netanyahu has in mind. I think the reason for the attack, to be honest, is to create chaos and then seem like it pushes Sisi from the other side of Rafah to open the borders so that Palestinians can flee to the Sinai Desert, which has been from the beginning, it's been in the plan. There are many people who can't understand that Sisi is close to Netanyahu. And also we must see that in Egypt, when demonstrations are for the Palestinians, they get a brutal response back. They try to suppress any act of solidarity coming from the Egyptians. The Egyptians, as people, are very close to the Palestinians, and they suffer with their suffering. I have no doubt about that. But we must see, as in the West and other countries, the leaders are not elected, they are selected, and they are put in place by all these corrupt oligarchs. And we must see oligarchy of the global scale. And we must see this is one of the reasons why the West is in decay, because no country in the West, from my knowledge, has the capacity to be a leader. You can't call Macron a leader. You can't call Trudeau a leader. You can't call all these Meloni and Mitsotakis and all these people who are part of the globalist team. You can't call them leaders. They are just they are they are told what to do. They are given orders, so they're not able to think. They are there only to implement the line that comes from above. And that is the same case with Sisi. And so I think instead of the IDF beating Hamas and slaughtering, I think my hypothesis is, given that I know that they have prepared the Sinai Desert for the Palestinians to go there. I think this will be the solution that Netanyahu would try to give to get rid of the Palestinians.
Well, this has been fascinating, Maria. We're going to pick this up again next week, I hope, as soon as you can be available. This conflict, you've only alluded to the fact that it is really a much larger conflict on a geopolitical stage. And we'll continue the discussion next week on really what is happening. And what is happening, you alluded to, this is a war of the West against BRICS. And you have even called it World War III. Maria, thank you for joining me tonight. We'll look forward to continuing this discussion early next week.
Thank you very much. It was a joy and a pleasure to be with you again. Thank you.